and welcome to Vegan 911. So today on Vegan 911, I am doing doctor interviews. I'm very curious as to what doctors are saying about vegan diets, and also I'm really curious about what doctors think about the whole COVID-19 pandemic and how veganism plays into that. I'm very interested also in talking with doctors of color. So today I have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Kristy Cromblin. She is here with us to tell us about her vegan journey. So Dr. Cromblin, how are you today?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about, how you feel being a vegan doctor, what kind of things that you recommend to your patients, how you feel about veganism and COVID-19, especially when it comes to communities of color, specifically the African American community. So let's start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What kind of medicine do you practice?
Okay, I'm from Alabama, born and raised. I'm actually an aspiring resident applicant, and I aspire to go into internal medicine. So I'm not practicing as of yet, but I will be soon. I just came back from New York, and I was volunteering at Jamaica Hospital Medical Center, and I got a chance to actually use a lot of my skills there, actually volunteering to help fight against COVID. So actually I just returned. So waiting for this application season to roll around and get started applying my clinical skills.
Wow, that's great. So can you tell us a little bit about how your experience with working with patients with COVID-19 was?
Yeah, gosh, it's pretty much everything you saw. When I reached, the numbers were just starting to decline, but we were definitely getting daily cases and death and mortalities. Oftentimes what we start to see is that a lot of patients were waiting until like the last minute being when their symptoms were so severe that it was difficult for them to, manage at home. It was at a point where I gotta go to the doctor, I've gotta go to the hospital. And we had a lot of patients, of course, it was too late for them. So it was definitely a trying time for lots of people. Very
Yeah,
difficult.
wow. But that sounds really, really rough. So how about your patient population? Were you seeing a diverse patient population who were affected, or were you seeing...
From what I understand, New York, the Queens area is a little bit more diverse. So just because I was kind of confined to that area, I feel it may be a little bit unfair to answer that. I would say that I saw a nice conglomerate of different ethnicities. It wasn't just solely 95% of this patient population or that demographic. So actually it was pretty diverse.
Tell us a little bit about what kind of vegan diet you're following and why you decided to become vegan.
A little bit of insight about my journey. So I started off as a pescatarian, and it wasn't really difficult for me because I've always loved vegetables. My thing was to just kind of make sure I got enough protein. For the information that I had, I felt like I needed to do that at that time, which now I know was not necessary. So I kept fish around a little bit. But I was also, what I tell a lot of people, like a vegetarian junkie or a pescatarian junkie. Like I did still engage in a lot of junk food. And one of the things that I started to notice that as I got older, particularly around age 39, and I'm 42 right now, as I got older, I realized that my energy wasn't the same. I've always been very energetic. Very, very energetic. My energy wasn't the same. I was sleeping a lot more, even though I would exercise sometimes up to twice a day. I found myself word searching a lot more. I felt like I didn't have mental clarity. I'd gone to the doctor just to see if I could have, just some tests for him, just to see what was going on, and everything came back normal. But it was something that really bothered me because I was like, I'm not my bubbly self. And that was just the core of who I was. So I had to see what was going on. Lo and behold, I ended up running across some information about alkaline veganism. And I was like, first of all, it's veganism, no way. So I immediately shut it down. But if you've ever been in one of those situations where something just keeps pulling on you and you become intrigued by it, you read a little bit, you still say no. You read a little bit, you still say no. But I found myself saying, you know what, I'm just going to give it a try. I said, I'll just try it for 5 days. And at that time, it was Dr. Sebi's diet that I was actually coming across. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Sebi, but in his diet, he emphasizes superfoods and foods that are closer to their natural state. Not all of them are not hybridized, but he tries to keep as many non-hybridized foods on his list. Nevertheless, I tried that for 5 days. After 3 days, I noticed a huge difference. I felt 16 again. I was sold. So that's how I became a vegan. And over time, since then, that was 2016. Since then, I've learned to kind of tinker with my diet list. I don't necessarily adhere strictly to his diet plan, but I am very aware of the pH of the foods that I intake. So that's pretty much how my journey started, and I'm still here today.
Wow, wonderful.
With his diet, though, it's strictly alkaline. I have found a way to balance my pH, and it's primarily alkaline that I intake. But I have noticed that there is a such thing. Of course, we know that in medicine, pH needs to be balanced. There is a such thing as too much alkaline, and I would actually feel the effect of when my diet was too alkaline. So I found a way to balance it.
Got you. So how do you know that your pH is balanced? Like, what do you feel in your body? Is there a way that you can measure this or tell?
So absolutely, there's a way that I can actually tell. I don't have any measurements. There are things that people use to measure. They will at home. They will do urine tests. But one of the things that I notice is that I have a little joint space narrowing from a previous motor vehicle accident in my neck, and occasionally it'll give me problems, especially when I've noticed in retrospect, especially when my diet is off. For instance, 1 year for my birthday, I thought I'd eat whatever I wanted before becoming alkaline vegan. And I tell you, I had problems out of my neck immediately after that. But now I notice I do not have any problems. I don't take any medication. I don't have any problems out of my neck giving me any pain. Another thing that I've noticed is my energy level, just clearly my energy level. And then the other thing is weight. So those are some just kind of qualitative things that I measure my success in my diet.
Wow, wonderful. Are there any other benefits that you've noted with being alkaline vegan?
Any other benefits that I've noticed? Mental clarity, that's a big one. Like I said, I used to word search when I first started noticing that, okay, age was probably catching up with me as well as my diet. Now I don't have to word search near as much, I'd say. There is some still, but nothing problematic, nothing that I feel like I need to go see a doctor about like I was before. So mental clarity.
That's great. So you said that you can possibly be too alkaline or too acidic. What kind of foods do you incorporate in your diet to give you that balance? Like maybe give us some examples.
Okay, one of the first things that come to mind for me, because I was born and raised in the South, green leafy vegetables tend to be very alkaline. So those are very good to balance. In fact, just today I bought some cabbage. So cabbage, anything in the cabbage family like broccoli, these are things that of course are not on Dr. Sebi's list. So I'm not saying that those are, but they are alkaline. And I do make sure that I try to get a good fair amount of those in my diet on a weekly basis. Your collard greens, your kale, those are all very alkaline. One of the things that is a little tricky is your citrus fruits, namely lemon and lime. They are both very highly acidic, we know that, but they actually have an alkaline effect on the body. And so once you take them in, because of the pancreas, it releases the acidic nature, it releases a lot of sodium bicarb, and there you have it. So it has the effect of bringing the pH back toward alkaline.
Got it. How did you get introduced to alkaline veganism? How did you hear about it? Did somebody tell you about it? Did you Google online?
Yeah, I really think it was Facebook. I think it started off on Facebook. Different people talking about how their diet changed their life, how they were cured from different diseases. And me, I'll listen to anybody's testimony, but I listen with critique and with a scientific mind, ready to question and analyze. But it just kept kind of showing up as I was doing research and trying to figure out what more can I do. It just kept showing up. And so I became very intrigued by the information. I started doing research and it just made sense to me. So I think I got the start on Facebook.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about family. How do people who are close to you, loved ones, feel about you being vegan? Are they inspired by you being vegan? Do you feel like they're against veganism?
Okay, how do my family respond to me being vegan? Wow. Let's just say at most family gatherings, I have to bring my own food. And at many other family gatherings, if they want to make jokes, which we have plenty of comedians in our family, it's a lot of fun in our family, but I tend to be the butt of some of those jokes because of my diet, or if I'll bring a dish for them, and it's okay, it's lightweight humor, but if I'll bring a dish and they'll say, hey, Kristy brought that one, it will sit there. So I would have to say it's going to be a work in progress, but I think quiet is kept. Some of them are secretly watching because they see a difference in me. And I think some of them feel like, okay, she has a lot of youthfulness about her. Maybe it's her diet. I think quiet is kept. Many of them are curious. I get questions sometimes.
That's great. And you said you were 42, correct?
That's correct.
Wow, and you look 16. You said you felt 16, but you actually looked it too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So have you inspired anyone in your family or close friends to become vegan or to practice alkaline veganism?
Yes, I do have a niece who just started a couple of weeks ago. She had some GI difficulties, GI distress, and she has had this issue for some years and really no solid diagnosis. So she's now looking into becoming a vegan. She's actually starting to. It's just kind of like a slow process in the beginning, but she's definitely making some strides with that. And then I have a couple other people who inquire about just healthy superfoods. They're just kind of flirting with the idea right now. And I'm always gentle about it. I'm not pushy. So if they want to ask me questions, I don't push it on them. I just listen. So there are a few. Now, I used to teach. I used to be in academic medicine. And I had several students that I would kind of write a diet plan for. And so just speaking to them and using my influence as their instructor, I was able to actually sway quite a bit too.
Got you. Well, that's great. I'm glad you're inspiring more people to become vegan and change their lives and be healthy. Wonderful. Let us talk about more like personal life. So how do you feel like you can maintain your diet with such a busy schedule?
I do have concerns. Maintaining my diet with a busy schedule. See, I do have concerns about that, particularly starting an internship year. It is a concern. Even though it's the hospital setting, it just depends on the hospital. You can't always get healthy foods. But so far, I've been able to do that just by kind of meal prepping at night or early in the morning. I will literally get up like an hour or two earlier just to cook. And I've been able to do that, even with a busy schedule. Even working 12 hours, I've been able to do that so far. I do have concerns, like I mentioned, going into an internship year. But yeah. And then there are some meals that I have that are quick and easy meals. And I kind of have a list of my go-to meals that don't require as much time.
Mm. That's good. So would you say being alkaline vegan is definitely doable for everyone?
I'm careful about that because of different people and their taste buds. You know, with me, because I'm just going to say because I grew up in the South and green leafy vegetables are a staple in many of our dishes. It was easy for me, and I've always loved them. So for me, that part was easy. And green leafy vegetables are quick, easy, they're inexpensive. You can make them in bulk, cook or prepare them in bulk, and they can last for days. So for that, it makes it easier for me. But I can't say that that's going to be the same for everyone. I think so, because there are so many changes, and veganism is now becoming so trendy. There's so many companies that are just kind of catering to our taste buds. It may be a lot easier in the near future for alkaline veganism, but it just depends on a person's, their palate for green leafy vegetables. That's going to be a big one.
Right. Yeah, I definitely would have to say, it feels like companies and restaurants are moving more toward veganism. I would also like to see a lot of these, companies and restaurants move more toward alkaline veganism. So that's hoping.
Mm-hmm. But if I can add this, one of the things, even though I say alkaline veganism, I don't want to speak of it as exclusively alkaline. I did mention it earlier about keeping it in balance. So sometimes when I know I've had something that's not necessarily alkaline, I will take in some alkaline water, and I try to balance it out that way. So that's still the idea for me, is still keeping my pH at a healthy balance. I can definitely notice the difference when I'm ingesting a lot of acidic foods.
Yes, that's very important. It's all about balance. So I like that message, definitely.
Yeah. So that makes it more doable.
Right, exactly. Let's see. Oh, what would you say is the worst thing about being vegan and alkaline vegan? Would you say that you've experienced a lot of challenges that have made you want to quit at one point?
Okay, so the worst thing I would say about being vegan and alkaline vegan together, I think I can answer this one together. And it hasn't been particularly terrible. It's just that when I get really busy, the options are still minimum. Mm-hmm. There are just not that many fast food restaurants. Even though you have some up and coming, you have like the Impossible Burger at Burger King, but yet and still, even with that, if you're vegan and alkaline vegan, you're going to still be health conscious. So there's certain things you just prefer not to partake in as often. So it's just meal prep and making sure you have your food on hand, your snacks in between your meals. That would have to be the worst, if I had to say worst, the worst thing. But it hasn't made me want to turn back. No, I'm in it for the long haul.
That's great. It seems like the benefits that you've experienced being vegan totally outweigh any challenges that you might have.
That's exactly what it is. I remember what it was like coming home at 6 o'clock and saying, I'm just going to take a nap, but I need to cook dinner for my son. And I wouldn't wake up until 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, what? That was really bad. So something had to change. I remember that, and I never want to go back to that. So.
Right. Oh. So you said you had a son. Does your son also eat majority vegan or all vegan?
And so my children, I have 2 boys, and both of them are anti-green. I actually have this little prayer box where I write a prayer. God, please help Christopher to eat more healthy vegetables. It was starting to work a little bit. But no, neither of them are vegan. Neither one of them.
Gotcha.
But my younger son, he is a little bit more health conscious over the last 2 years. And he does that sometimes when he wants something from me too. He'll make sure I know.
Gotcha. How long have you been vegan?
Since 2016. So 4 years this month, actually. 4 years in June this month.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So a lot of vegans that I talk to don't actually go to the doctor. Unfortunately, myself included. But I wanted to ask if you do have a relationship with a doctor or a PCP, what has your doctor said about you being vegan?
So what has my doctor said? I do have an actually interesting story. within the first year of me going vegan, I had my annual physical, because I believe in that. I do still go. And a couple of days after that, my lab work came back, and the nurse called me. She left a message on my voicemail because I was at work. She says, Dr. Bannock just wanted me to let you know that your cholesterol was excellent. Normally we don't call, but he said to call you and let you know it was very impressive.
Wow.
So that made me feel so good. It was like within that first year. So there was some time put in to me having been a vegan by then at that point. I'd also started juicing. So I was like on this new health streak,
Right.
And that really, really reinforced my efforts for me. I do still go to the doctor. I still believe in that. It's kind of like a fun trip, so to speak. So it's kind of a privilege to be able to say that I don't have any real medical problems that have to be managed or anything like that. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that.
That's wonderful. What about with your patients or patients that you've interacted with? Have you or do you try to prescribe a vegan diet to them as well, since you've had so many health benefits?
So with my patients, for the past year, I worked in cardiology. I did like the non-ACGME internship in cardiology, and had a lot of patients that would either, if they inquire, maybe they inquired, or they just kind of mentioned on their own that they were interested in changing their diet. And I'm really, really big on not pushing, because unfortunately, and this may be an opinion that varies by many people, but I've seen a lot of people take on somewhat of an offensive or maybe abrasive stance on their new diet or their vegan diet. And that has unfortunately turned a lot of people away. So I try to really wait until that door is open, or I will gently mention it. If there's strong resistance against, oh no, I can't give up meat, or I'm not doing it, I will back off. I love the adage that says when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I live by that. Mm-hmm. So if that door is not open, don't bother. And that's pretty much what I live by. But by all means, if that door is open and they're interested, I go right on in until I see that, they're not interested, or, unless I've convinced them.
Great. For those of your patients who are less willing to take advice, do you tell them about what benefits you've experienced?
I tend to, for my patients, when I'm speaking with them and they seem to be a little bit resistant, but yet still giving me that open door to speak, I do tend to start with benefits first, because that kind of gets their attention. I'll put of course, mention some science and that, and what we feel may be backed by science. And then I'll go on with some easy steps. I have done several different diet consultations as well. And I always tell people, don't just jump in there if you feel like it's too much for you. Start with baby steps and advance it as you go.
Have you successfully convinced any of your patients to become vegan?
Well, I will tell you, they will come back. There have been several of them that have come back, and they've given me, input on their experience and what they've been trying, what they've been eating. And I feel like they were converted, but I don't know. As far as I can tell, yes, there have been several. At least that's what they tell me.
That's great. That's wonderful. So that means that you are very influential, and your story is very inspiring too. Do you feel like there's any relationship with being vegan to possibly preventing COVID?
Okay, that is an interesting question. Being vegan and possibly preventing COVID. And this is the way I would answer it, because we know that this is a condition that is ever evolving and one that's constantly being discovered. A lot of information is constantly being discovered about it. I think the strongest statement that I can make and feel confident in is that being vegan has tremendously helped my immune system. I don't get sick. And it was never a major problem for me before. I could be around 5 people with the flu and never get sick, even not having gotten the flu shot if I hadn't gotten it yet. So with that history of my own, I am inclined to say that if a person did contract the coronavirus, that their immune system may be more likely, if they do not have any other comorbidities, may be more likely to be able to combat that situation, fight that situation, or even if they did become sick, their recovery time would be much shorter if they have a vegan diet. And I'm going to say, this is not scientifically backed, we know, because all of this is new. This is just opinion, but I'm going to even say especially alkaline, because one of the things we do know that is scientifically backed is that viruses and cancer cells cannot thrive very well in an alkaline environment. So based on that statement alone, and there's been research for that, based on that statement alone, I'm inclined to think yes. I think a vegan diet, especially an alkaline vegan diet, can tremendously help a person who is battling with COVID.
Yeah, definitely. And I would definitely love to see more research on maybe how veganism plays into, COVID recovery time, or maybe even prevention. That would be some great research to look at. Are there any vegan or plant-based products that you recommend to your own patients?
So right now, as far as products that I recommend, the ones that I recommend are really based on those patients and family members who are struggling to start off, or struggling to kind of go vegan. They're interested, they're curious, but they don't really know if they can give up certain meat products. So there are some, as far as their health rating, I can't really say. If I say something, I really want it to be backed, but I can't really say. I would love to mention those products if I can. Like Beyond Meat, that's one of them, that's soy-free. Mm-hmm. And as far as I can tell, I think it's a good alternative for someone who really feels like they want that texture of meat. They've got to have a burger. Mm-hmm. I think that it's an excellent product, as long as it's cooked well. That must be stated. Mm-hmm. If it's half cooked, they would never want to have it again. But I think that's one of the ones that I recommend a lot. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love Beyond Meat. It's really tasty. Like, I feel like it's probably the closest thing to a burger I've probably eaten so far in my vegan journey.
And even my son will eat
it. Oh, wow. See, look. Even the kids like it.
He doesn't want it, so.
Wonderful. What would you say is your favorite vegan food of all time?
I think just out of my kitchen, there are so many. Mm-hmm. Wow. The first one that comes to mind, if I just really want to go in on a vegan meal, I would say like a nice bean burrito. The only thing with the bean burritos, though, is a lot of the beans are not alkaline. Some of them are very acidic, so I'll kind of balance that out. But bean burritos, I make this really special sauce to go with my bean burrito. In the South here, we call them white barbecue sauce, but it is excellent. And all of my non-vegan friends and family members love the sauce. So that's one of my favorites.
Wow. Can you let us in on what's in this barbecue sauce?
The white barbecue sauce, no problem. So I use vegan mayo. Mm-hmm. Can't believe I'm telling my secret. White barbecue sauce, vegan mayo, the lime juice, and I have it written down. Actually, I could give you those measurements later. Lime juice, cilantro, and garlic. You mix it up, and really, actually, you can eyeball it. If you want it a little thick, you would put more lime juice in it. If you want it you put less lime juice. If you want it a little thin, you put more lime juice, depending on your taste buds. And that's pretty much it. A little coarse sea salt to kick it up a little bit more. It is wonderful. So wonderful. Cilantro is a big one in there. Cilantro, lime juice, vegan mayo, and fresh pressed garlic. Yeah.
That sounds extremely delicious. Do you have any final thoughts for us? Any knowledge you want to tell us? Anything?
I would like to say this to anyone that is considering going vegan and they feel like it's such a challenge. One of the things I would like to say is, join different groups maybe on social media or subscribe to different pages and channels like this one, and just learn more about it. There are going to be some things that you learn that may scare you. Especially, there's a lot of health videos out that are very, very informative, and it'll make you feel like there's nothing you can do that's right. But take baby steps, and if you can get a friend or a family member along with you, get someone to go along with you and take baby steps. If you enjoy cooking, there's one thing about vegan that I love. If you enjoy cooking, it's one of the best things in the world. And if you have time, it's one of the best things in the world for you. You can get so creative in the kitchen just by alkalining many different meals. And it's just so much fun, especially when you have other people that you can do it along with. It's really not that bad, I promise. And you will love the results. One of the things that I remember in my early few weeks of going vegan, I had a gym membership at that time. I actually wrote them a letter to cancel my gym membership because I was losing too much weight too fast. So wow. I did it to kind of be cute, like, hey, I'm vegan now. I no longer need this. But, and I thank them for it. But if weight gain is one of your issues, it won't be an issue any longer. Me, I have to just try to make sure I add some bread every now and then, vegan bread every now and then, just to keep my weight up. So, but yes, it's definitely worth it.
That's great. Do you have any maybe resources that you would like to share for those of us who are trying to transition to be vegan or alkaline vegan? Maybe some of your favorites?
Oh yeah, there's Vegan 101 Beginners on Facebook. That's a pretty good group. There's Dr. Sabi's group as well. And there are many others. So you can just kind of go on Facebook and on Instagram for this group. And you can go on and just put in vegan and you'll find different groups and different people. One thing to keep in mind though is that a lot of people are very curious. There are going to be some people within those groups that you're just going to have to put your filter up and not take some things personally. Right. Just kind of observe, when you're first joining these groups and kind of get the feeling of the group, see the direction that the group is moving in, and just enjoy the recipes that are going to be shared, because there are going to be many recipes that you'll really, really like. And also Pinterest is another one. So.
Yes. I like all of those suggestions. I think that Facebook is a fantastic resource for vegan ideas too, and also support. I actually am part of some alkaline groups on Facebook as well, so that's great. So thank you, Dr. Cromblin. This was very informative. Thank you for sharing your vegan journey with all of us.
You're welcome.
Is there a way that people can follow you on Instagram or Facebook?
Well, on Instagram, I just rebranded my Instagram because I have this thing about doing product reviews. So mine on Instagram is going to be a host of different product reviews. So I really don't have one that's strictly for veganism. It's just product reviews. Called What's the Hype? But I do review some vegan products as well. So.
Wonderful. What is your handle? What's your screen name?
It's Yo, What's the Hype? And it's Hype Reviews products. So.
Wonderful. Sounds great. So all of you can follow Dr. Cromblin on Instagram as well. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you've been liking all of our videos, please subscribe. We would love to have you part of our Vegan 911 family. You can also follow us on Instagram at Vegan 911 channel. So again, thank you, Dr. Cromblin, for joining us. I'm thanking all of you for being with us, and hopefully we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.